All right, trading highlights from today. I have to start by at least saying a few words about this Casey Anthony thing because it just floored me. It actually ruined my mood today. Did not see this coming. I almost got in an argument with one of our members today because they were basically saying, hey, the state didn't prove it. And there has to be, all today did was highlight a flaw in our system. Everyone says, best judicial system in the world. With it, there's a serious flaw when you can murder your child and get away with it. Okay, circumstantial evidence. Sometimes that's all you have, and if you don't have a weapon and you don't have an exact method because of time and degradation of the body, okay, if you don't have all that, does that mean it didn't happen? To me, all that did was just tell people down the road, make sure you follow Casey's template if you want to kill your child. That's what the court taught us today, because anyone who's a parent knows beyond a reasonable doubt that she killed her kid. And I'll tell you what, I do not want to hear the jurors who are now going to do interviews for money down the road. You watch. I don't want to hear them say, but I fear that they will. I have a feeling you're going to hear them say, well, we do think she did it, but they didn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, if you don't have evidence because you've been lied to for months, okay, and you don't have a murder weapon because it was some form of asphyxiation, drowning or whatever, and she put it off forever and forever, making up these stories, misdirecting everybody in time to where there's no actual one exact moment where the prosecution can say, here's what day she did it, here's how she did it, and then here's what she did. Well, when there's no witnesses, okay, at some point, common sense has to kick in, and circumstantial evidence has to mean something. This whole beyond a reasonable doubt, excuse me, I'm choking here, makes it seem like, nobody should ever be convicted unless there's a murder weapon or a witness. At some point, common sense has to kick in. And like I said, any parent on the planet that's even somewhat reasonably intelligent knows that woman killed her daughter and now has gotten away with it. So I probably shouldn't be so affected by this, but I guess because it's close, I live close to Orlando, and I think the coverage is even more intense here. Just absolutely makes me sick. And somebody in our chat room today said that, it wasn't proven. Well, some things are unprovable. Excuse me. If you look at everything she did, she made it where it's unprovable beyond a reasonable doubt. Does that mean she should go free? Absolutely not. So I don't know what needs to be revamped, but today absolutely highlighted serious flaws in the United States judicial system. All right. So having said all that, I should probably go over some of the trades from today. And another thing. Let's just assume that her bogus story about it was an accidental drowning on the 16th, and then she tried to cover it up and make it look like a murder. First of all, that makes no sense. You make a murder look like an accident, but not vice versa. I've never heard of that. But let's just assume she somehow walked up to the pool and the child was floating. Let me tell you something. My son is 14. Well, he's 15 now, but at the time, last year, he was 14. And he's riding his bike around the neighborhood with me. I'm on rollerblades. And we come up to the tennis courts, and we say, hey, let's maybe we should play tennis. And so he cut into the tennis court parking lot, and I was on rollerblades. I'm not the best skater, so I went to the next entrance, which is just, 50 yards away, and then turned in, made a right where he should have been coming at me, and he was gone. Okay, 14, big enough to take care of himself, and I just knew he would never just disappear like that. And so I started asking people in the parking lot, did you see my son? And nobody had seen him. I was with him like 8 seconds before. I went into a complete panic because there's just no way that made sense. There's a security guard at the pool. I grabbed his phone, called 911 because I was screaming my son's name. He wouldn't answer. Nobody saw him. And I just felt like somebody grabbed him and threw him in a car or something and was gone. I was sick to my son. And he's 14. So I called 911, and then I'm not a strong rollerblader, but I skated home because I had to go home and get a car to look for him. I was like Apollo Ono or whatever his name is. I mean, my heart was racing. I thought I was going to die. Anyway, long story short, when I got home, he was there. I guess he thought we were going to go play tennis, and he was racing me home to get our rackets. But I just couldn't fathom that he would do that without letting me know. My point is, if I had a 2-year-old and I saw him in a pool, face down or whatever they're alleging, the only thought on my mind is 911 and checking. So, I mean, any reasonable thinking person knows she killed that kid. Okay? Somebody in the chat room today said it was irrelevant that she was out partying the day after the child allegedly drowned, according to her. You've seen the pictures. She's out partying and drinking and having the time of her life. She spent the next month having the time of her life and lying to everybody. So there's something seriously wrong with our judicial system. And I don't want to hear from the jury that, but I have a feeling we're going to, is that, yeah, we think she did it, but the prosecution didn't do their job. That's, at some point, common sense has to kick in. It's like OJ, okay? You don't grab a beard, a wad of cash, and jump in a car headed for Mexico and get on the phone talking, I want my mommy. You don't do that if you didn't just murder 2 people, okay? If you're innocent, you don't do that. And somebody in chat today said, well, what about karma? OJ's back in jail. He got what's coming to him. I said, karma's got nothing to do with OJ. He's just an idiot, okay? If you get away with murder in front of the entire planet, all right, and then you still can't stay out of jail on an NFL pension nonetheless, you're just an idiot. So that wasn't karma. And people said, well, she'll have to live with this for the rest of her life. No, she has no conscience, so it won't affect her at all. She got everything she wanted, and I certainly urge you not to buy a book from any of these idiot jurors, because too much emphasis placed on did the prosecution do a good... Sometimes you don't have the tools because of the nature of what Casey did. You don't have the tools to put together a Loctite case, but we're all humans. You have to use some common sense and look at everything she did. She should not be walking out of jail. All right, I'm done with that rant. I'll talk about a few calls today. TXT, I know you've seen this setup before whenever we have something. And again, I wasn't watching this all day, but when I did find it, it looked like this. Okay, it's already grinding down all day, and this has that final push down look to it, using a method I teach called TXT at 2266 with a stop 8 cents below, and you can see right here it triggered, and look at that. I mean, it doesn't seem like much, but 2266 to 2290 over the next 10 minutes on a stock that never came close to the stop was a nice little trade. ABX, I called it after it gapped up, sold off, and then went straight sideways. Called it up here at 4609, right about here, and it went to 4640 over the next half hour. So that was a nice trade for most of us in chat. CDE, again, these aren't much to brag. I called CDE long right here where the arrow is. I'll use my drawing tool. Called CDE. Well, I tried to get an arrow there. Let's try that again. Long right there. 24.85. The stop was, I think, less than a dime below. And, big deal. It made it to 25, I don't know, 15 or something. Again, a lot of slow grinding. Look at that chart. A lot of that today on a bunch of different stuff. So, Pain Therapeutics, PTIE. Show you the daily first. Just got killed here. And then another gap down. And then going to like 15s. I'll zoom in a little bit after you saw the gap down. Had this nice tight base right here. Called it at 411. I think the stop was at 405, something like that. And it took a while to get going, but never did stop out, and ended up going up to 426. Again, that doesn't sound like much, but 411 to 426, certainly not a bad percentage gain. So I'm not going to ramble anymore. We'll follow up tomorrow night with some picks or some highlights from tomorrow's live trading in our chat room at greatstockpicks.com. Have a good night.